Lui progreso y gracia la misericordia. This is Sancista Luis, and I'm doing a video today on the various comisiones or cortes espirituales in the traditions of Espiritismo, Espiritismo Criollo, Espiritismo de la Mesa Blanca, Espiritismo Cruzado, Espiritismo Folclórico, Sance, Umbanda, Lionza. A lot of people ask, what do these spirits represent? Each one of these spirits represents a spiritual guide in the individual's life. A lot of people ask, why do Espiritistas, especially those who practice the Creole traditions, have such a plethora of spiritual guides, and why are they from various nations or cultures? You will often see, if you see here, you will often see African spirits sitting alongside Spanish spirits and gypsies and nuns and healers and Indians and Arabians and Asian spirits. And a lot of people ask, well, why do individuals have such a plethora of spirits? Well, just to cut it down shortly, today I am Puerto Rican. Just to give you an example of me, myself, today I am Puerto Rican. I was born in the United States of America, and my parents come from Puerto Rico. On my mother's side, my mother's side is Castilian blood, Germanic and German blood. And on my father's side, there is Taino blood, and there is Gypsy blood, Gypsy from southern Spain. And so today I'm Puerto Rican. I see myself as a Puerto Rican. I identify myself more as a Taino individual, of Taino blood. But I cannot deny my heritage as of what made me a human being today, the person that I am today as a person. I have Indian blood within me. I have European blood. This is a Spanish dancer, una española. A lot of people confuse la española with a gitana. So in a way, or in a sense, this is an ancestral altar. This is an ancestral a shrine, so to say. Not ancestral in the sense of I keep my ancestral, let's say, pictures of the ones that I knew, my deceased, my grandparents, maybe relatives that I knew as of my blood. I keep them separate, often in pictures above this altar. Right now I'm cleaning it, so I placed all the spirits here. But I keep those pictures of my ancestors separate. And then my spirit guides go on a table. Some go on a table, some go on the floor, on the floor in front of the altar. But just because I am Puerto Rican, I can identify myself with Taino blood, my Taino heritage blood, does not necessarily mean that I do not have European bloodline, that I don't have some form of Asian, blood within me. My gypsy blood, I have to respect everything that makes me the human being or the person that I am today. You know what I'm saying? African American. I don't have African blood within me, but I do have, I do remember that when we were younger, we had we grew up in an African American neighborhood. African culture is part of the Puerto Rican culture. It's in our music, it's in our heritage, it's in our way, the way we listen to our salsa music, the way we dance and all that. And so a lot of people say, well, why do Espiritistas have all these spirits? All these spirits. Well, today, like I said, I am Puerto Rican, I am Hispanic, Taino. I'd rather use the word Taino than Hispanic. I am of Taino blood. But today, in a past life, I could have been Egyptian. I could have been Arabian. I could have been Asian. You know what I'm saying? These spiritual essences, this spiritual energy because of the passing of life doesn't mean that that energy disappears, it ends. No, that energy follows you in this life and in the next. Most of these spirit guides represent something different in your life. This one right here, La Monjita, which is a Catholic spirit guide. She's a little dirty because of my granddaughter, I'm sorry. This one represents not actually necessarily a ancestral spirit. It was a teacher when I was younger, a little boy. I was an altar boy, and she represents a teacher, a very important teacher in my life who passed away, and so I venerate her. I venerate her by having that doll of La Monjita on my altar, you know, to give her respects, because she did pave a great deal of the way to the man that I am today. Okay, most of these spirits represent something. They all each have a function. They all each have a name. We all have spirits. There's uno de la elevation, espíritu de la elevation. I can't say that in Spanish. We have a teaching guide, a healing guide. We have a guide that helps us with divination, a guide that helps us know, you know, the rights from wrong. And these guides constantly speak to us. So I'm going to go down, you know, through the altar and show you right here. This is an Arabe. This is an Arabe, and a lot of people have Arabe spirits because a lot of Puerto Ricans have Arabian blood within them. A lot of Arabian people did migrate into the Caribbean, and you know, I know some individuals that have pirates as spiritual guides. I know an individual that has a circus clown. Right here, this is a Gitana. This will represent, she's used for me for when I do my card readings for consultas espirituales. And zoom into La Gitana. My Indios, they represent my Taino heritage, my Arahuaque blood that resides within my blood. They're very close to me. They're very important. Gregorio, San Gregorio, very important saint, folk saint in many Espiritismo traditions. Let me see if I can get him, the best way that I can get him. Gregorio, he's a healer guide. He helps me when I do pases, when I do limpias, when I do despojos. Okay, un cacique, we all in the Caribbean, we are part, Puerto Ricans at least, are part of a clan. There was 18 clans of Indians, of Taino Indians, each having a chief, and so this represents el chief el cacique de mi cabeza, from where my ancestry, from where my Boricua, my Taino ancestry came from. They all have a name, and that name is, you know, pretty much entirely up to me. African. Why African? A lot of Africans in the Caribbean, when they escaped, they often were accepted by the Tainos, and they had the children that they had, the mestizos, the children that were from African and Indian blood. So many Puerto Ricans, many people from the Caribbean have African blood. This right here is a Madama. A lot of people from the South confuse their, let's say you had someone in the ancestor, or someone in your past life, or maybe your grandmother had a servant in the house. So this spirit, believe it or not, still, and she was really protective of your family. This spirit, often a lot of people from the South confuse it as being a madama, when in actuality she's not. She seems like a madama. She's just a house servant that still protects you and guides a lot of individuals in life. This right here is una negrita, una conga, with her siete congas, her siete conguitas. Right here is a Congo spirit. A lot of Africans from Bantu and Congolese were brought to Puerto Rico and Yoruba. Right here's my Francisco and my Francisca. My Española, I like to dance. And when I can dance a great bachata, I like flamenco music. So that represents my Spanish bloodline. Again, my gypsy blood, my gypsy spirit that helps me with divination and fortune telling, I guess you could say. Often you will see un fuente espiritual in la mesa of los espiritistas, the Espiritistas of Puerto Rico. Often there's only one, and some incorporate what is called la bóveda, which comes from Cuba. This is un fuente that's traditionally from the tradition of Puerto Rico. It's usually one, and then I have a bóveda that's separate, but this one is for me to cleanse myself, for individuals to cleanse myself. On an altar or on a mesa blanca, you will see el Santísimo, you will see a cross, you will often see a bell, you know, to call the spirits, tobacco, various perfumes. Always, there are books of prayers depending on your tradition. Right here, some novenas that I have. Books on novena. Always, we have libros de Espiritismo. Very important that we always have libro Espiritismo. This is the tradition that I grew up in. My grandmother was Espiritista, so this book is always in my home. We always keep this in our home. This is Sancista Luis. If you have any questions, please ask. I'm sorry about the bell in the background. If you have any questions, please ask. Please follow. Subscribe to my videos. It motivates me to do a little bit more. This one right here, really important to me because this represents a cacica in Puerto Rico. Her name was Yuisa, one of the two cacicas that at the time of Christopher Columbus, when Christopher Columbus arrived to the Caribbean, there were two cacicas. One in Haiti, her name was Anacaona, and one in Puerto Rico, her name was Yuisa. And this one, even though this is not a Caribbean Indian in the way of dress, but to me, this spirit represents Yuisa, my Yuisa. She gives me a lot of strength. She teaches me about understanding, about trying to find peace. She knows the ways of herbs better than I would. So again, this is my Española. A lot of people confuse La Española with gypsies. I'm going to paint her and give her a different color. Often the muertos are emisarios or emissaries of the orishas or the loas. A lot of people don't understand that, or don't often like Gitanas often work with el Legba. Congos and all that often work with maybe your Ogun, depending, not always. If you have a marinero spirit in your Cuadro Espiritual, a pirata, that could work. That spirit would be an emisario of your sirena, your Yemaya, your Olokun. Your indios often represent your simbises, are emissaries of your simbises, of your semises. Spirits, the semises were the spirits that were honored by the Taino in the Caribbean. Your Arabes, not all, some are highly elevated spirits of magic. They work with your simbises. They work with your highly elevated spirits. Again, your gypsies would be more of a connection with your eleguas, your spirits of your legbases. Your healer spirits, if you have a Babalua J or a San Lázaro or a spirit that heals, this spirit would work under as an emisario to that spirit. In Santeria, they call them Babalua J. There's many different spirits. Some have saints, some use saints. San Lázaro, San Martín de Porres, to heal. Different saints, and these spirits represent an emisario, an emissary to these saints, spirits, loas, angels. They are never pertained or never kept in the same altar as your saints, your misterios or your loas. They're always kept in a separate altar. This is Sancista Luis. If you have any questions, please ask. Please subscribe. Santo Sance. Sancista Luis.